Now, Variety reports after the world premiere of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that in an after-credits sequence, there are certain X-Men characters. And these characters include Mystique, Havoc, Toad, and William Stryker. And the very implication of such an after-credits sequence in a Spider-Man film has a massive impact on the comic book film universe itself. Now, the likelihood of a crossover between Sony, who owns Spider-Man, and Fox, who owns the X-Men, was not very high, but the real reasoning as to why there's an after-credit sequence featuring the X-Men in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is extremely just disappointing. The real reasoning is that Mark Webb, the director of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, was contractually obligated to Fox after they allowed him to make 500 Days of Summer, but he was not able to meet such obligations, and Fox decided to take advantage of the situation by making sure that Sony would promote X-Men Days of Future Past for free. And while it certainly is smart on Fox's part, considering their film releases just 3 weeks after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's a lot of a negative side to this entire story. While it does show Fox's brilliant idea, of course, the thing is, the fact that there is no real crossover is going to disappoint a lot of fans, one, but a lot of those people who watch the film, stay back after the credits, might not be as well informed with regards to the cinematic universes of these various comic book characters, might actually believe that such a crossover will exist at some point, which I'm sure it will years down the line, but with a different cast and everything, and they will be disappointed. And secondly, considering they're trying to make this massive universe with the Sinister Six, I would have believed that the after-credit sequence of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 would certainly have had some of the other villains, any implications for the future. Even the after-credit sequence for The Amazing Spider-Man wasn't particularly interesting or intriguing, and now the fact that they have to just bow down to Fox and do this, it just really doesn't reflect well for Sony's image, at least. It doesn't make them look good by any means. It actually makes me feel bad for Sony and makes me less excited about the future universe, and in fact, to a certain extent, less excited about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I just get the impression that Sony is so concerned with meeting certain deadlines that they've set for their future films that in fact, they're not looking at the legacy of the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, because years down the line, when people are going to look back at The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they're going to look at it as the film that had an X-Men after-credit sequence. It just seems absolutely ridiculous, in my personal opinion, and I get the impression that Sony, in fact, does not love this film enough to care about what they show after the credits. Nonetheless, I'm sure I'll end up watching both films, but my excitement more so for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has started to decrease. And while some people might like this as a fun little Easter egg, some people might be disappointed by this, personally, I see this as a big slap to the fans.